Adam and his wife have moved into a family house so he can work on some spy project he has going on. She's pregnant, and he wanted to get away to work in solitude. While cleaning the house, he stumbles upon an old diary from a man named Nicholas Hyde. As the game progresses, you'll switch back and forth from Adam and to Nicholas to see their different perspectives. As for Adam, he works for the CIA as a codebreaker during the heart of the Cold War, and much of his gameplay is geared to solving puzzles or cracking codes. He has an Enigma machine to work on, and also a tool called the Localizer, which you could use to hunt down residual remnants of people who have been nearby and other spy-type crap. Most of his gameplay takes place in the day, which feels reassuring and safe in the beginning of the game. Towards the conclusion of the story, the amount of light in the scene doesn't stop the story from getting very dark. The other half of the coin is the man from the diary Adam found, Nicholas Hyde. He's returning to his house after many years of being gone. He explains his dad disappeared about a decade ago and has not returned. We start off in the same house we explored as Adam, but now it's night. Because it's a century earlier, our sources of light are candles and a lantern. As the game moves on, he'll narrate and fill in the gaps of his story. Much of it amounts to his dad being blamed for an assortment of misdeeds, and he doesn't believe it, in spite of the fact that when you hear about the way his dad treated him as a child, you as the player character, you could kind of believe, you could kind of maybe believe he might be a bad dude. He's essentially playing the part of a detective and trying to learn the truth of the events of a decade prior. In fact, after a while, you're actually chasing the trail of a detective who's also investigating Nicholas's father. Much of the horror in this game can be found in Nicholas's chapters. They're often tense and dark, and the tone will rapidly shift upon regaining control of Adam. This diversity suits the game, though, and in the end it keeps the gameplay fresh, and it also keeps you from exhausting yourself with unrelenting tension. When it comes to gameplay, they try their best to give you a more diverse affair than expectation. As previously mentioned, Adam has the localizer to hunt down. It's not important what he's hunting, but he uses it in several chapters. Think of it like your tracker. This device is often used to lead you by the nose to the next key event. He also has to solve numerous puzzles, and this includes doing his job and cracking a Soviet code with his Enigma machine, and also includes cracking a safe code at one point. I'm a self-professed moron, so take my opinions on these puzzles with a grain of salt, but I found them more engaging and stimulating than the typical fare from the genre. I gave up and looked up the aforementioned save code and subsequently regretted it because I definitely could have figured it out if I didn't let myself get so frustrated. The loop tends to go like this. You'll investigate an area as one of the two characters and learn about what's happening in their stories. And then upon a moment of climax in the story, you will then start the next chapter as the other character, also in the same area. Usually Adam's events are during the day, which changes the atmosphere, but it's also occurring almost a century in the future from the last time you're there, which drastically changes the mood in the air. The opposite is also true. If you go into a basement with Adam, you best believe you're going to be back as Nicholas. In this game, things definitely go bump in the night. As Nicholas, you'll collect kerosene for your pocket lamp and matches to light nearby candles. This is definitely no survival horror experience because I had an abundance of both supplies by the end of the game, where I could have continued indefinitely with no further pickups. If you need to fight for supplies to get your rocks off in these horror games, then I'd advise this might not be the game for you. Nicholas will update his diary as he moves around and finds different news clippings or finds further evidence to clarify past events. I may have buried the lead by waiting till now to say that Nicholas is doing all this while being hunted by this fucking guy.
Who the hell are you? Stay back. You hear me? Keep away!
Oh yeah, I guess I should have mentioned that, huh? Adam has his own enemies working against him as he has Soviets that have discovered his secluded location. His poor pregnant wife is having a tough time holding it together, and Adam might not be as reassuring as one might hope. Overall, the gameplay loop was enjoyable, and flipping between dual protagonists and quick intervals kept the gameplay and environments fresh. It makes progression feel brisk, and it feels like the kind of game where the ending kind of sneaks up on you. There are plenty of games I played where I felt like I finished the game because I started it, really, and not really for any other reason than that. I wanted to come back into Beast Inside because I genuinely wanted closure. Who the hell is that creepy man in the mask? Now, as much as I enjoyed the overall gameplay and the game in general, I have to say my piece on something. The Beast Inside is one of the many horror games that has taken to using the Amnesia control system, where you grab and swing doors or push and pull boxes and manually pick up items with mouse movement. I understand the original genesis of the concept of these controls. It can make the world feel more tangible. You as the player are having to more actively engage with even the smallest actions, and these controls can add texture to the gameplay. Some games have very limited interactivity, and using a control scheme where minor actions are slightly complex can mask these limitations for some. Especially if you're already tense from a game with spooky atmosphere, having to run from a foe and then manually struggle to open the door can induce more terror from some. That's what I believe is the idea anyhow. Now here's my hot take. It's kind of crap. These bad controls are actively sabotaging my game experience in many of these horror games. The thing that gets me is that the Beast Inside has plenty enough going on with his gameplay where there's really no reason to rely on these controls. At this point, they're kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a novelty? This is not good. It's not good. If I could press a key and open a door, it would not make me less tense. It would make me less annoyed. I can't tell you how many times I tried to spin a gear or push something where it was just painful and I wasn't getting the desired result. Not only does the game fail to understand the direction of your input at times, in this game, as with many others of its kind, the sensitivity of your mouse will be a common sore spot. Either I had to jack sensitivity to 11 for puzzles and moving things, or I turned it down where I could pan the camera more smoothly, and then I had to suffer once I interacted with something. I did not play this game with a controller, but I'm certain it would probably have similar problems, as that's been my prior experience with these control types. Now I'll move on, as I don't want to give the wrong impression, as I really enjoyed this game, but I have a building vendetta against the people who would implement the controls of this type into games. On the audio front, the sound effects are punchy and well produced, and the voice acting is excellent. Both the main protagonists sell their performances well, and I enjoyed them. There are moments of jump scares in this one, and the audio director deserves plenty of credit for the ones that worked. There's a creepy religious swamp lady whose voice actress deserves recognition as well, since she was written really creepy, but the voice actress delivered her lines so well it sold that creepiness. I was legitimately unsettled in her area of the game, predominantly due to her performance. Overall, the sound design is what should be expected in a game of this type. The story of both our protagonists is really interesting. The tangential storyline idea is also really cool. Being able to experience these already cool environments in two different timelines is really enjoyable. These are essentially just recycled environments that allowed them to really flesh out the game with half the environmental design. It was done with intelligence, as there's plenty of context and story reason for it. Also, instead of like coming back to a different area and going like, oh, I've already been here, like I'm not going to pay attention, like you have this sense of I've been here, and so you want to see the differences, how time has changed those environments, and like you just have a different attitude about exploration. In terms of Nicholas, you'll learn about his father and his business ventures. His dad was an owner and operator of a mine and an inn. Both of these business ventures came to unfortunate ends, and you'll uncover these events. Who is the creepy-ass masked man always lingering in your periphery? You'll find these answers as well. In regards to Adam, who are these Russians giving you and his wife troubles? You found numerous bugs in your house. How much do they know about you? Is the sheriff who came to investigate your break-ins someone Adam and Emma can trust? I like these stories, and they came to a branch in the final chapter of the game. The last kink in my enjoyment came from the branching decisions in the game's final chapter. There are numerous endings based upon your choices here. I liked all these endings, but what I did not like is that once you complete the story, there's no chapter select. What that means is that if you haven't had the foresight to copy over your save before playing the final chapter, you'll have to replay the whole game over again just to choose a different option for an ending scenario. This choice is regrettable. When playing the game, the events will play out identically as before. For the first 12 chapters, everything will be the same. So it's not like it's adding replayability. All you're really playing for is the final chapter choice. The choice to change the endings is literally only in the final chapter. So asking for a full replay for just a couple minutes of different content is a hard ask for many, myself included. I'd recommend you play the game blind, make your decisions, and watch the different endings on YouTube. Or, alternatively, now that you know about these things, you could make a copy of your Chapter 12 save before completing the game. Wink wink, nudge nudge, say no more. Although I wish they had a chapter select in the post-game, it does not ruin my overall impressions of the full experience. This game's creepy, it's unsettling, has a moody atmosphere, and I enjoyed both ends of the timeline. The game has more gameplay than many other games of its type, and I'd say for those who have a disdain for walking simulators, this game has enough going on to capture and hold your interest. I will not be doing a spoiler segment on this one, as I'd rather just sell it as vaguely as possible and hope that I inspire some interest for someone. The beast inside may not have been perfect, but it was really interesting, and at the very least I felt it distinguished itself as original and well made. And the story is it's worth paying attention to. Thanks everyone. Take care.